Keepie Uppies with Richie and Tots.
So welcome everybody to the next episode of Keepie Uppies, and we're joined by a special guest here, Mia Fitzsimmons. Portaferry is littered with famous people. Kieran McGeehan, the running star, singer-songwriter Ryan McMullen, Pretty Posy owner and entrepreneur Claire McMahon. Should pay a minute to say that. And of course now Mia Fitzsimmons of Linfield Ladies. Welcome, Mia.
Hello.
So I have to make sure I don't call you Mia Fitzsimmons the right back. It's midfield maestro, isn't that right?
Yes, definitely. The right back was a 45-minute stint. Took the half time, never played there since.
And what do you not like right back? I'm a right back. Richie's he's left back. What's wrong with full back? What have you had against the right back position?
Honestly, full back is probably, no offence to anybody who plays full back, it's probably one of the easier positions in the pitch. Like, you see it, you just see everything. But that game, it was my first ever senior start. Played right back. We weren't getting beat or anything. Like, I wasn't getting tortured, but it just wasn't for me. Like, it just doesn't bode well with the rest of the team. Maybe that's because I've just been thrown in there. But maybe if I'm like 35, I might go back to right back.
So you're not offended right backs, but you've just basically offended every single right back that's listening to this podcast. Thanks a million. Usually when you start off, no offense, but you end up being offensive. But no, so you're a midfielder then, and do you enjoy that? Obviously, that position you're involved a lot. I suppose you're getting stuck in with tackles, and you can join in with attacks and stuff like that. So midfield is your position. You prefer that?
Yeah, I haven't really played anywhere else. Everybody, obviously, I think every footballer in the history of football starts off as a striker when you're like playing under nines or whatever. But no, I've always been a centre mid. But it's probably the hardest position in the pitch, but it's the best because it's like you do everything.
Yeah, happy days. I'm sure we'll get stuck into that sort of later on. So we're going to start you off with just the usual starting question, just to break in nice and easy. I know the answer to this one, unfortunately, but what team do you support, and who would have been your football hero growing up?
I support Manchester United.
Okay.
But no, I think this is a really cliche answer, but it is. Well, I've got two sort of football and people that I look up to. Ronaldo for one, and Wayne Rooney for the other. Probably because Ronaldo is like, he will be my favourite player of all time, no matter who plays, whatever, and I play nothing like him. But Wayne Rooney, because that's probably the best United player that I've watched, because I only started I can remember watching football Ferguson's last year from then on in, and obviously Wayne Rooney's probably been the best player in that period.
Yeah, there was a wee spell actually when they were together. Can you remember that? Were you supporting them then? I think that would have been maybe
2008.
Yeah, around then they were really good.
No, yeah, I would sit and watch YouTube of that all the time. Like the one goal that sticks out to me is the counter attack against Arsenal.
Yes.
Arsenal had a corner and then they went up and scored. But no, them two together were just like devastating.
Yeah, they were fantastic.
You always see people putting up photos of Wayne Rooney being like, he's younger than Cristiano Ronaldo, and Ronaldo looks like this, and Wayne Rooney looks like this, which is a bit disrespectful to Rooney, but no, they're definitely my two idols.
Yeah, I always think Rooney doesn't always get the credit he deserves when you consider he was he Man United's record goal scorer, England's.
Yeah,
is he still?
England,
yeah. So he maybe the only thing is probably when he did get into his 30s, I suppose he did drop off a wee bit in terms of maybe his performances, and I think he had a spell at United where he moved into midfield and that didn't quite work out, But there was a spell him and Ronaldo were like two of the best, probably young talents in Europe, and it pains me to say that, but they were brilliant. And you just had Tevez and Berbatov, like those four players. They were your four strikers. I know they didn't obviously all play together, but what a selection Strelix had back in the day. So there was some team. Um,
hmm
so what about then? So take us back to you starting off, because you're from Portaferry, so Portaferry wouldn't be uh, an area for well known for playing football, mainly camogie and hurling. So how did you, I suppose, get involved with football?
Well, I played it in primary school, but like everybody did, and I'd always had a real like interest in it. That was probably just from like people talking about it in school, like collecting match attacks, because that was just like the thing. But I didn't start playing for a team until I was 12. Um, it was actually when I went to Assumption in Balmahinch that really like pushed me to start playing football, because there was people in my class who played for a football team, and I was like, I want to do that. Like that's what I want to do. I just want to play football. So I convinced my mum, and we went to Arts Academy, which is like the closest girls team to me. So went to the Arts Academy, and then from then on, I've been playing football ever since.
So did you always find, even at a very young age, even before probably you joined Ards, you had that real passion for football, even though obviously Portaferry's big into the camogie, you kind of gravitated more to the football? Would that be safe to say? You had a bit more sort of passion maybe for it?
Yeah, it was just I don't even know what it was. I think it actually was match attacks that really get me into it, and I was really like my granny would always buy them for me, and I'd always be like the Champions League would be on ITV. You would watch it then, and you would watch like the 2010 World Cup, and I was like, no, I really love football, but I just don't know what it was, but I just wanted to always play it.
And um, we've spoken there about camogie. We'll have to kind of talk about and Claire McMahon won't forgive me if I don't talk about it. But of course, you were part of the squad that won the Down Championship and the Ulster Championship. That was last year, is that right? I know this maybe it didn't get past maybe
Yeah,
the semi
the
final stage this year,
2000,
but
2021 season, we won our first ever Down Championship, and then obviously our first ever Ulster.
so what was that? That must have been amazing to be a part of that, and it must have been unreal. That I suppose that's something that you are going to be talking about probably 40, 50 years time, about, because that was the first. Am I right in saying the first Portaferry team to win
Yeah, the first
the
Portaferry
camogie
Camogie team
down,
to ever win. Yep.
and then never mind
Um,
then going and winning Ulster? So that must have been amazing.
nah, it was like you don't. I think that every single one of us in that team have talked about it every day since we've won it. Honestly, there's not a day go by where I don't sit and look at the photos or sit and like talk about it or think about it, because like I obviously like I love playing camogie, but I always had like football more. And last season was like we all just everybody committed, and you went to every training, and there was just a bit of a buzz about every training, every match. And after we won the Down, after the final whistle went, after the final, I don't think I've cried as hard in my life. And I think like every single person there, no matter if you're on the pitch or off it, was crying their eyes out. And that just like I think that just really shows how much it meant to everybody. And then the Ulster was the same. All I could do was cry. But it was just such a different feeling than winning a cup with football, because it meant different, because like you were representing your town, like you've played you and you're representing your friends and your family. It just meant like a lot.
Yeah, because I even find myself even turning into a bit of a Portaferry supporter myself. And I remember watching, I think the Ulster final might have been on the Facebook page, and I just remember just the celebrations afterwards was amazing. I remember they had a dodgy microphone as well when your captain was trying to do her speech, and I think she just gave up and just tossed it away. Um, but yeah, as you said, you've been chatting about that for nearly every day since. But you'll find probably 40, 50 years time, you'll still be talking about it. And although you probably don't realize it now, you are history makers. So you will be talked about for probably even longer than that. And how do you find, kind of, are you a bit more focused, I suppose, on the football now? But do you find there's certain aspects of camogie that was useful when it came to playing football, and vice versa?
They both do, but I think that's in any sport. Like that's what I believe, that every sport overlaps in like anyway. Like football, I found helped me with camogie, like movement wise and like running off the ball, and obviously fitness because it's extra training. And the same with camogie and football. And then camogie, it has sort of taught me to be like tough in football, like always like you always go into the tackle and you always try hard because that's just like something about the GAA. Like everybody is willing to go get hurt and willing to go like, run all over the pitch to win the game, and that's just sort of what I took into football from camogie.
I suppose the other thing though, then with football, I suppose with things like camogie, hurling, Gaelic football, you are in kind of in a bubble in a way, whereas with football, it kind of opens up a bit more. You're probably meeting a lot more people just from across the country, across
Yeah,
different communities that you maybe wouldn't normally, which is great. So to go back then to the football, so you went to Ards, were you there for maybe a year or two, and how did, I suppose, the move to
yeah.
Linfield come about?
No, so I was at Ards for a year, and it was obviously just like I was playing football for fun. Then it wasn't just to go anywhere with it. I was just playing football for fun because I wanted to play. And then I just stopped after because obviously back then you have to pay like a membership, and I remember the membership had went up quite a lot, and my mum was like, "You're not paying that to play for fun." And then I stopped playing football for a couple of months, and then I'd been asked to go to Bangor Ladies, which was like, and so ours, I was playing with the boys, and then Bangor Ladies was an all girls team in a boys league. So I went to it, played there for a year, and then around then there was a few players in our team who had been like playing for the Northern Ireland development teams, and Northern Ireland were trying to push them to go because Northern Ireland had seen that women's football was starting to lift up a bit. So they were like, we want to have a proper league at all like academy levels in like Linfield and Glentoran because back then the Linfield and Glentoran's teams weren't like 11-a-side teams. So they would try and convince all the players from all like the smaller teams like Bangor to go to all them big teams. So a lot of our players had left and then Bangor had folded. So Linfield approached the two managers of Bangor and asked them to come and start the academy up. And then they had brought a few of us with us, and that's how Linfield, like, it came about me going to Linfield then when I was 14.
Fantastic. So all that's kind of happened then very recently. Um, and you were saying then you were playing for the Bangor girls team in a boys league. Is that right? How
Yeah.
how was that? How did you find the games against the boys? Did you enjoy it, or that
Um,
must?
it was it was fun to play in an all girls team against boys teams. Like more when I played for ours, like it didn't really feel any different. Obviously, when you went, you knew the team was looking over, being like, oh, that team has a girl in their team. But then when you went and played for Bangor, the boys like were playing a team of girls, and it was like sometimes they would be giving you stick, would be like, oh, you shouldn't even be playing this league, but we finished second in the league and we'd won the cup, and like we would just hit back with like, oh, then why are we second in the league, why we win the cup, like playing against the boys, it wasn't much different because we were like 13 at the time, so like the boys weren't massively bigger or faster, like you're just the same, but it was just like this is a girls team playing football, but no, it's good, and I think that there should be like academies up until about 14 should have all the teams should be joint and then they should split off because there's not much difference in a girl playing football at 12 than a boy playing football at 12 other than the boys probably had more opportunities to play football when he was younger, but all like probably playing for Bangers really definitely helped that whole team playing football because it's just like doesn't push you away from playing football, like playing football with a boy is no different to playing football with a girl.
Yeah, and you were saying there. So would you have got then some boys teams that you were coming up against and saying various things to you? And that must have been difficult, when you're still quite young and you're trying to find your way in football and growing up and whatever else. That must have been tough, was it? Sort of hearing those kind
Yeah,
of
it was
remarks,
just
or
like
did it just motivate you even more? I'm just going to kick lumps out of you. I'm just going to win the cup and finish second. How's that?
yeah, so some of them like we'd always have we had like a rivalry, like so we'd finish second and Ardo would finish first, And that was like the team that never really said anything because they knew that we were a good team. They would just all were like, yeah, fair enough. Like if it's girls, like we don't care if it's girls or if it's boys. But the teams that we would end up with, we would win games at 4-0, and the boys would be like giving away free kicks and being like, the referee, you're only giving that because they're girls. But we wouldn't. We were only 13, so we just were like, yeah, like okay. We didn't really think. Some of us were just like, what are you talking about? Or like some of like I played with a girl, Amy at Bangor, and she plays in Shooters now, and she would have slide tackled a car if it needed to be, and if a boy said something, she would just go and absolutely empty him. So that's just the way it was. But now when you think about it, because like in uni, we learn about like gender and sport and what effects it's had, and when you think about it, there were so many times where it was like even the managers of the other teams would be saying stuff, and you'd be like, what's the point? It's youth football, like. It's just sometimes you just didn't really understand it, and you'd get in the car and you'd go home and you wouldn't think about it, or sometimes you would sit and think like, what's like, why are they getting on like that? And you understand why a load of girls don't play football and a load of girls go to other sports because of what's said. But I think more so now it's getting pushed away, but back then definitely like there was always times where you at least once every match somebody would say something.
Yeah, well, thankfully, sort of we've moved on a lot more over the last number of years, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
So you went to Linfield then. So how did that go then? Those first couple of years, did you find a big step up in terms of training facilities, the level of training itself, or how did you find the step up yourself then from Bangor to Linfield Ladies?
I think it was more so like understanding that you were playing for Linfield and you were playing against Glenthorne and Cliftonville and more things like that. Like when I turned around to my mum and dad and was like, yeah, Molly and Peter have asked me to go to Linfield, they would both look at each other and laugh. And I was like, what's funny? Like when I was 13, I didn't understand who Linfield were, but now obviously I do. But then I think it was more so understanding that like Linfield doesn't like Glenthorne and Glenthorne doesn't like Linfield. It was more so understanding them types of things, and obviously it was like more higher profile. Like more people would know that Linfield were playing Glenthorne than Bangor were playing Ardoyne type of thing. And the training didn't really I don't think the training changed much until I probably got to like under 17s at Linfield. Then the quality of players were better and it started to get way more serious. But it was definitely just more to understanding who you were playing for than like the training and stuff.
And as you said, there's obviously those kind of local rivalries with Glenthorne and Cliftonville. Is it like that then when it comes to the games? Do you notice those kind of fixtures? And then Crusaders as well would be another kind of Belfast derby. Do you notice that when it comes to the games, it is pretty intense? Few wee kind of late challenges, shoulder barges and whatnot.
I think it's more so I'll never forget. Like it was like my second month or so in Linfield that like the secretary came and was like, listen, like what they're going to need to realise here is nobody likes Linfield. And it's true, like it's when now when you sit and think about it, it doesn't matter. Like we obviously haven't been great the past couple of years, but nobody still likes Linfield, no matter how bad we are. And like Glenthorne and Cliftonville have really dominated the league in the last 2 years, and they'll go out of their way to try and humiliate us as much as they can because it's Linfield. And then like we played Glenthorne there 2 weeks ago and we drew 2-8, we were 2-0 up, and like Glenthorne obviously because they're so like they've been so high profile the last couple of years, they would get quite a lot of like men's fans coming to their games and they'd be giving it stacks to be off because it's Linfield, and you would see the comments under the post being like, oh, it's great to beat the Blues, and it's people who aren't affiliated with the team, it's just like actual supporters of the team. Like a random Glen supporter would be like, oh, it's great to beat the Blues no matter who it is, and just stuff like that. But I think that brings more to the game. Like it's okay when you play for Northern Ireland and you go and it's Northern Ireland against like I don't know Portugal. It's no rivalry. Whereas like when you're playing Linfield against Glenthorne, there is always a wee bit more in it because of who you're playing.
But as you said, that's probably it's a good thing. It adds a bit of maybe spikiness to the game, which I don't know about you, but I used to love those kind of because Back in the day when I'd have been playing, you come coming up against a Portadown team or maybe another team in Lurgan, and I'd have loved those games. Now, fair enough, sometimes you could get a wee bit carried away and you would have picked up maybe a few yellows. And speaking of yellows, I've heard you do pick up a few yellows. Claire passed that on via one of your friends. I won't mention her name, but yeah, do you kind of enjoy those games? Those kind of when it does get a bit spiky, let's say. Do you find it brings out the
Um,
best in you?
I think it's more of like a fight or flight type of thing. Sometimes you can get too carried away and you do something stupid. Now, touch wood, I've never get sent off, but like we were playing Cliftonville one like a couple of weeks ago, or a couple months ago, and one of our players got sent off, and I was on my third yellow of the season, and if I'd got a yellow that game, then I was going to miss out Glentoran on the Friday night. And after our player got sent off, we were obviously really annoyed, and I did go get another yellow. So there's obviously times where you do stupid things, but you do laugh about it in a couple of months' time after you get it up. But no, then I think it just sort of depends on what way the game's going. Like if you're winning well and you've got like a load of momentum and you're beating the Glens and you're flying the tackles and you're making the tackles, or you're getting the interceptions, or you're getting the header or the shoulder work. Whereas if you're getting beat, the tackles never seem to go your way. Like you always end up getting a free kick, or like you go to intercept the ball but you take too heavy of a touch, or every time you shoulder a player they seem to go down and win a free kick. So like I think it just sort of depends on what way the flow of the game is, but them games are probably the better games than like the nicer games.
Yeah, it was Maria, by the way, that passed that on about you picking up.
Maria McAnally,
Yeah.
of course.
She also mentioned something about penalties. You're supposed to be very good at penalties, taking penalties. Is that right?
No, this would be the funniest thing you've probably ever heard on this podcast. I've hit 6 penalties from like on the 15s level to senior level, and I have missed all 6.
So you have a 100% record then with penalties in terms of missing them.
Consistent, yeah.
Consistently rubbish. Okay. You would have thought after maybe like that to me that's the fault of the manager. When you've maybe missed your first 2 or 3, I'd be saying right, yeah, we'll maybe give it a wee break here, give it to somebody else, give it to the right back. But the fact that he's let you
Right
take
back.
6, that's unbelievable.
But and the fact two of them were actually in penalty shootouts, which didn't help. And they were like the last penalty, so if I missed the loss, and I obviously missed. But
you're not supposed to be telling us this here. You make it worse for yourself.
But they always go on to say like, oh, but you just need to hit one and score it. But it's easier said than done, obviously. And they're like, no, like you just need to hit one, and when you score one, and you'll just drive on. But we had a penalty shootout this season against Zion, and I was like, either take me off. It was the 119th minute, and I was like, you're either taking me off or you're putting me down as the 11th penalty taker. I'm not going anywhere near it. But thankfully, well, we got beaten penalties, but thankfully, yeah, but I wasn't one of the ones who missed.
Oh dear, oh dear. Well, one man, well, he hasn't jumped on yet. Richie, he was brilliant at penalties. Always really good. He's a left footer as well. Always able to hit just the very side net, and I don't know how he does it. But I can't really stop myself. I've missed a couple of penalties in my time. But anyway, this isn't about me. This is about you and the 6 penalties that you've missed. So your first couple of years then, how did it go at Linfield? And obviously you must have went pretty well, because then you got a call up to the Northern Ireland U19s. So tell us a bit how the first couple of seasons go at Linfield, and then what was that experience like then with under-19s?
So the first year at Linfield was just sort of like we were all getting our bearings. I don't know what we finished in the league, but we got the cup final and stuff. But yeah, it was good. And then my under 17, it's probably the best under 17. Probably the best team in your football, not the brag. That Northern Ireland, our league has seen. We went unbeaten. We won the cup, the League Cup, and then to top it all off, we went to Glasgow for a friendly against Rangers, and we beat Rangers over there. But the team was just filled with so much quality, and I think that year really like showed me that I just want to play football like for as long as I can. Like we had the likes of Megan Bell, who's over at Rangers now, Abby McGee, was at the Euros, Kelsey Burrows was at the Euros, Lauren Perry, across the water, Caitlin McGuinness, Rebecca McKenna, like Katie Hart, so many players that were just so good at football and still are. And then the other teams like reserve league started, and I got the call up to Northern Ireland then, and that's when you start to really meet new people. Like you're becoming friends with players who play for Crusaders and Glentoran and Christianville, and like you're getting to travel the world. Like my first trip was in Estonia. Like nobody was ever going to go to Estonia on a holiday. But like I've been to Estonia and I'm well traveled. Like I missed a lot of school, but like it was still worth it because you get to go to these places and play football in the hot weather and the cold weather, well colder than here, and you're playing against like the best players at your age. Like we played France and Portugal in the same tournament, the both hammered, like, but you get to see, and you always like find an interest in the players. Like we would always look them up and be like looking, go and seeing how their careers are now, and like I know a girl who plays for Benfica, and we played England, and I know a girl who plays for like Liverpool and stuff. It's just like you just say like you're watching TV and you're like I played against her. So like Northern Ireland youth football, even if I never do get the opportunity to play for the game, you always have that with you, and you'll always remember the times you went away, and you're still friends with the whole team because you spent so much time together. Like you were in a hotel for like 2 weeks, and you obviously get to know each other so much. And just it was obviously hard to man, like you were training like 6 days a week in just club and country, but it was just like you love football, and that's why you're there. So it wasn't like a chore really, but yeah, it was like the whole youth football. Like my whole youth football was probably the best opportunity I could get, and it couldn't have went any better. It's nice. It's nice.
So yeah, obviously some fantastic, I'm sure, stories to tell then with your time with the Northern Ireland under 19s. And then speaking of Northern Ireland, then what did you make of their performance then in the Euros this summer?
Well, obviously, like they were in a really tough group. Like they'd end up playing the winners of the whole thing. But it's probably the best experience that a load of them was going to ever have to be in it. And it was obviously good to see that like a load of them, like a load of my best mates were like there playing in the Euros, and everybody knows who they are. And like people from Portaferry were like, "Oh, do you know Julie Andrews? Do you know Caitlin McGuinness?" And I was like, "Yeah, like they're my friends." And like I felt proud of them. Like, and I wasn't even there, and I felt like proud that I know them, and like I was like, oh yeah, I've played with Kirsty McGuinness, I've played with Ashley Hutton, I've played against Lauren Wade. Like it felt like a part of like every single one of like their friends and like their opponents. It felt like we were all there with them, because like you knew them on a personal level, and obviously it was like it was so weird to hear like the commentators talking about them, and like when you're on your Instagram and you're seeing like the likes of Ella Toon posting a photo and like a Northern Ireland players in the background, you're like, that's them, like that's like my one of my friends. It's just obvious. It's really strange, and obviously they gave it their best chances and they went pro for them 6 months, but they weren't gonna like a load of the players they were playing against have been pro for 6 years, not just 6 months. So they were trying to really crawl back. But it really put Northern Ireland football and raised football in the country so much here, and it definitely is going to help us in the long term. Like regardless if we were there, if we weren't there, it's just gonna change football here for forever.
Yeah, and we were talking about obviously your Portaferry team being like history makers and going to be talked about for decades. Likewise, the Northern Ireland team. I know they didn't maybe pick up a point, but it almost felt like they'd won the tournament for Northern Ireland. And as you said, hopefully, NIF will get on the back of that, and your league's going to be expanding next season, which is a big plus, and attendances have been up as well. So fingers crossed NIF will get behind the women's game and right on the back of the legacy that the girls have and the ladies have created. And I suppose that must give you a bit of inspiration as well when you obviously, you play alongside Ashley Hutton, and you've played against and with a couple of those players as well, that under 19s. That must give you a bit of inspiration. Hold on a wee minute. These are girls that I've played with. This is my teammate. Does that give you the inspiration to what? I can work my way into the Northern Ireland setup?
Yeah, it shows it's not like as far away as you think it is. Like it's like one person beside. Like I sit beside Ashley Hutton in the changing room. It's like right there, and like if you do put in the effort, you might get the chance to get it. And obviously, when you see like people my age doing it, and people 5 years older than me doing it, and people like nearly 10 years older than me doing it, like you're thinking like it's achievable in the sense, but it's obviously it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but you have to aim for it, and you've done really well. You're a good age as well. You're what? You 20?
And like 20 in
19?
a month, but yeah,
20 in a month. So you've got plenty of years left in you. And you're good, maybe 7-8 years from your peak. My problem was I picked it under 12 and it was just rapidly went downhill. Yeah, no, I got player of the year at under 12 and done rubbish ever since. So tell us a wee bit about Ashley Hutton, your captain at Linfield. What's it like, to play alongside her? Because obviously she went to the Euros, done fantastically well. Over 100 odd caps for Northern Ireland. I know she retired, I think, after the tournament. But what sort of a captain and player and person is she like?
Well, everybody always thinks like Ashley Hutton's a centre back, like old fashioned centre back. But honestly, her attitude is genuine. Like she is probably one of the funniest people in the team. She always has a story. She always has something going on. She'll always be taking the mick. Like she is. That sounds like she's so unserious, but like that's just the way she is. Like she just brings such a good morale, and everybody just like adores her. Like, and she'll probably like be quite embarrassed of saying this, but the day she retires is probably going to be the saddest day of the club. Like everybody adores the ground she walks on and worships anything Ashley Hutton does and says. And it's just like she'd done her ACL last season, 2 seasons ago, and like we all wanted and we all wished her to get back. We like if she never played a game for Linfield again, like everybody just wanted her so badly to get to the Euros just for herself because of how long she's been playing football and everything that she'd went through. Like back when she made her first senior appearance at like 14, and like she had to like pay to go, and it's just things like that. When you listen to some of the things she says, you're like wow, that's just like unbelievable for somebody. Like stuff she's saying, like paying to go in Northern Ireland trips is like unimaginable. Like I was like, what on earth? But like that's what she had to do because she loved football and she still does. And when you see like how she presents herself in the pitch and what she says in the team talks and in the change room and how she plays every game, like with her heart on her sleeve, she just is an inspiration to everybody at Linfield and probably the whole league. Every team in the league has a player like that, and like that's Ashley Hutton's ours.
And she's a skipper as well. And I noticed you got the captain's armband there.
Yeah,
the last game of the season. How did
the season Ashley Hutton was away? I was the club captain, so
that must have been pretty special. It must have been your family must have been pretty proud.
Yeah,
it makes all those journeys to Ards and Bangor worthwhile.
Yeah, it is. It's like my granddad would ring me after every single game, and he'd be like, "How'd you get on? Did you score this week?" And the answer to that's always no. But I remember it was like the first game.
But it got booked though.
And then they would always be like, "Oh, you've just let the family down." And I missed the penalty. But no, I remember after the first game, I was captain. It was like Cliftonville in the cup game, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I was captain tonight." And he was like, "You were what?" And he was like, "Were you playing for the seniors?" I was like, "Yeah." And like I was first ever captain for the club when I was 18, and obviously that's so strange. Like I was captain for like half a season for every game, and I was 18, and then the odd games that Hutton didn't play this season, I was the captain then. And it's so strange. Like you feel like 10 years older than you really are, but you're not. And like you're looking around, and then you're like, they're like, "Oh, let's go skipper," and I'm like, "Yeah, where's Hutton?" And I'm like, "No, I'm Hutton today." But it is so strange, and like it is, you do feel proud, like, but obviously there's so much more to the team than being a captain. And I remember when after I was captain for a couple of games, Niffle had got me in for an interview, and they were making like a big show about me being captain when I was 18, and I was like, Hutton is our captain, like regardless of who's wearing the armband, it always is going to be Hutton. And I was just saying, like, because we are such a young team, like everybody's a captain, it doesn't really matter who wears the armband. To be honest, I only go in for the toss, but it does feel really special, and you do feel like the club, that's sort of like the club giving it back to me, because I've been there since I was 14, and like my under 15s team and under 17s team that I've been in, I'm the only one left. Everybody else is like went to other teams and went elsewhere, and I do feel it is like it has sort of like the clubs gave back and been like we do understand how much you love to play for Linfield, like regardless of how everybody else has went. But it was a proud moment, and it still is every time that I am captain.
Yeah, well, I suppose it just illustrates how well you're thought of, not just as a player, but obviously as a person. You must have some great leadership qualities, for somebody just 19. Fantastic. So we kind of touched on it earlier. Cliftonville and Glentoran have kind of dominated the domestic scene the last couple of seasons, but your Linfield team, they're very young. Yes, there's experience in there with Ashley. But do you get the sense though that you're starting to build something? And also, how would you kind of assess if you're doing a kind of a teacher's report of your season this year? What would you say about it?
It did have this year had its ups and downs. Like the last sort of 3 results, we could beat 3-1 with Cliftonville, we drew 2 each with Glentoran, and then we beat Crusaders 1-0. Was sort of like a shift, and we at the start of the season, obviously, like we just wanted to go and make, because this year they were doing the split. You wanted to be in the top 4. Last year we finished second bottom, which wasn't good enough. But we all knew that it was like we were really transitioning. Like we were just trying to get young players experience, really. But obviously because we finished 4th, which is one of our aims, but we'd lost in 2 semi-finals of a cup, which obviously we wanted to try and get in a final. But like there's always going to be things you can't do. But at the start of the season, I remember we were 1-0 up against Crusaders. Inexperience came, Crusaders' experience showed, and we conceded near the end of the game and it ended 1 each. Same with Sion, we were 1-0 up, and at the end of the game, we ended up drawing 1 each. Then we'd went away to Sion, which is it was just before the split. It was like between us and them to get 4th, and we went 2-0 up. Sion scored to make it 2-1, but we saw out the win, and I think in everybody's heads was sort of saying, well, maybe we are learning and we are getting better. And then last game of the season, like we beat Crusaders 1-0, and we kept the win and we kept the clean sheet, and things like that just sort of show that we are getting more experience. And obviously, like the team's only going to be a year older next year, so it's not as if we're going to be completely different, but it shows that we will be something to look out for, and like next year, the year after, and the year after that, and so many more years to come, because we are getting experience. Like even though sometimes we do get a good hammering, like it's not as if we're just forgetting about it. Like we have learned a lot in the last 2 years.
And you kind of touched on the game earlier as well. You went 2-0 up against Glentoran, and yes, they kind of came storming back maybe the last 10-15 minutes or so, but so that must give you confidence as well. When you look at them, they finished strongly and pushed Cliftonville right until the last couple of games, and then won the cup there at the weekend. The fact that you were more than a match for them. You were 2-0 up. I think somebody fell asleep at the back post for their equaliser.
You're
getting absolute dogs abuse here. It's awful, but no, it must. All joking aside, it must give you confidence. Look, we were 2-0 up. We're more than a match. Let's kind of take this into next season and push on. Yeah,
that was a frustrating game though, and I still walk about the house thinking like, what the hell? We were 2-0 up. We should have won. You're playing against Glentoran, like, but. They are quite inevitable. Like once a Glentoran score 1 goal, they always go and score more than 1, which was unfortunately against us. But when we were 2-0 up, like I felt like we were all just buzzing about the pitch, and it was probably one of the best games we played. And even though we did draw 2 each, like some people were happy with the result, but most we were all really frustrated. Like we just couldn't see out the win, but. At least it wasn't a loss. Like you'd rather have 1 point than none. But I think that game sort of it even showed Glentoran, and when we play for the uni team, like a load of the team, like players from the other teams were saying, like them last 2 results, like Crusaders and the Glentoran result, really has like shown everybody that like they've took a step back and watched that Linfield actually have got better. Like we always kept saying like we will be back again, and people are starting to step back now and think, well, maybe they actually have improved.
Yeah, that's it. And like you said, you just learn from maybe those games. But no, you've had a real strong ending of the season. And I suppose, what about next season? What would kind of be the aims? Maybe you don't want to disclose them, but like, what is it to really improve on the points total? Is it to kind of try and stay up there and challenge for a bit, win a trophy?
I think there'll probably be a lot of like on the field and off the field games, like, and with the league and stuff. Like, we're definitely going to want to try and stay in the top four, like, to be part of the big four Belfast teams, and you want to stay there, and you want to even try maybe get third or second, and for God bid, like, maybe first in a couple of years. I think that Cliftonville and Glentoran are still going to be the best of the best the next 2 years, but it will change once we are all starting to get more experience, obviously. But I think, from a manager's point of view, they'll want to get, obviously now Ashley Hutton's retired, we have no players in the NI team at all, and the likes, and we have so many like promising young players, the likes of like Kerry Halliday and Abby Sweetlove, Jane McMaster, and all them ones there, to maybe even get like some players about the NI squad would probably be a sentiment to us, and how far we've came in the last couple of years to get players back in, because Hutton was obviously in there her whole life, and when Hutton had went, we've got nobody there now, so maybe even get one of them players up and probably try and get silverware. Obviously every club's going to try and say that, but we get beaten 2 semi-finals this year, so obviously to try and get a final and maybe even get to the Windsor Park final this year. But definitely just try and stay in the top four and just keep getting better. Like, if at the end of the season you come and you say, well, yes, we were better than last season, then you probably can't do anything more than that.
Yeah, it looks like it's exciting times ahead for you. Just out of interest, when it comes to maybe, say, for example, like that game against Glentoran, reflecting maybe on the performance or the goals that were conceded or even the goals that you scored, do you have like somebody that looks at, match stats and data, stats?
So we all wear GPSs, and you just upload that. Like, you can see it yourself on your phone, and you just upload it, and you see how far you ran, how like the quickest speed, many sprints you done and all. And then the next day you get the match sent in as a video, and then you get like stats of like passing, defending, like tackling, heading, etc., and you have a wee look at it, and they'll sometimes, like, the managers will bring it up, and even before the big games, like before like the Glentorans, and just before anybody, you, like, on a Sunday we'd go in and they'd be like, Glentoran hit their corner this way, so this is why we're going to set up defensively, or this is how you're going to hurt Crusaders, or this is how Cliftonville scored their goals. Like, there is videos out there, and we do go back and watch, and all they'll be like, this is where we done good, this is where we didn't do good, and stuff like that. And they never really bashes about how far we're running stuff, but I think it's just sort of to gauge, like, if, just say the 2 each against Glentoran, they might compare it to we get beat 4-0 in the semi-final of the cup. Like, compare, like, we drew 2 each, we get beat 4-0, was there anything different in the stats and stuff like that? So we do have people for that. Lindsay Corey comes in and does a great work in all the video stuff.
That's class. It's fascinating. I'd have loved that back in the day. I might have highlighted, that I've done football running, mind you, but and about 20 foul throws, but it must be class. And do you find it must improve you? Would you kind of take her aside? Would you take Lindsay aside and just say, look, can you give me a bit of info about X, Y, and Z? Or
well, I would say I'm a bit of a football nerd. Like, I love going back and watching games and reading the stats. Like, I love, like, Monday Night Football, like that sort of, like, analysis stuff. So, like, Lindsay would have clips and then just, like, upload them, and then we would go and look at them and be like, right, this, that, and the other, and you would sort of know yourself, like, what you could do better and what's worse. Or, like, when you're watching it, or when you go back and watch the whole 90 minutes back, you realise how much that, like, you come off the pitch and you're thinking, like, I played rubbish, or I played good, and you could go back and see, because you don't remember, like, the whole game. You'll probably only remember combined 5 minutes of the 90. When you go back and you watch it all, and you can, it does change the whole game. Like, the way you thought the game was in your head after the game may not have been the way the game actually played out. So I do think it's quite important to go watch it. I don't think it's like the be all and end all if you don't watch a game, but I do love going back and watching the games. Like even like a random one, like I'll be sitting thinking, oh, I'll go back and watch our game against Cliftonville 2 years ago when we came back and won 3-2, just to like rewatch it, and like it's just watching football.
Class. As you said, you come away sometimes from a game and you always remember kind of maybe the bad things you did. It might have been only maybe 2 or 3 misplaced passes, but it always sticks in your head. And as you said, maybe when you look back, I think I actually didn't play too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could go the opposite. I actually played 6 misplaced passes, but no, fantastic. Right, I'm conscious you want to watch the mighty Man United hammer Aston Villa 6-0 tonight. So we're going to fly on.
Weekend, I'm not too sure if
I'm hoping that I just scudded you there. So we're going to rattle on with the Keepie Uppies, which no doubt I'm sure you find challenging, to say the least.
Yeah.
So we're going to rattle on here. The first one, the best team that you ever played for?
Would be my Linfield under-17s team. Unbeaten.
Unbeaten, fantastic. The Invincibles. Right, next to then, who was your best captain and who was the best goal scorer?
Best captain, Ashley Hutton. Best goal scorer, probably Kirsty McGuinness. Linfield would have won 4 titles in a row, and I'm pretty sure she got the top goal scorer all 4 years in a row. I was only in the senior team for the last year, but like Kirsty McGuinness is the type of player that it reminds me a bit of Ronaldo. Like it's not that they'll do nothing all game, but they'd be just wandering about, and the next minute they'll go and score like a hat trick. Like Kirsty McGuinness definitely was the best goal scorer that I've played with.
And is Caitlin then her sister?
Yes, Caitlin got top scorer this year.
Yes, I seen a header she scored. I can't remember who it was against. It was fantastic. Actually, she was whatever way the ball was crossing, she was like moving away from the ball, so she really had to generate the power.
Yeah.
But yeah, two pretty good goal scorers.
Definitely.
What about then player with the best touch and best keeper?
Best touch, I think, would be Casey Howe from the Glens. She played for Linfield. Every single player I'm going to name here has probably played for Linfield and left. But yeah, Casey Howe, definitely the best touch. And best goalkeeper, I've played with a good few goalkeepers. I'm going to say, I don't want to offend. I'm going to say Lauren Perry. Definitely Lauren Perry, yeah.
Okay. What about then best defender and best midfielder?
Best defender, Ashley Hutton. Best midfielder, oh gosh, Megan Bell.
Megan Bell of Rangers. What about then best striker?
Best striker, Caitlin McGuinness. Definitely.
And then what about best left foot and best right foot?
Best left foot, Kirsten McGuinness. Best right foot.
I know it's a tough one because there's so many righties out there.
Yeah. I always think a left footer. I always wish I was left footed. Left footers kick the ball better, I think. It just looks nicer.
Funny, we do say that. They always get, when you're talking about a left footer, you always say, oh, they have a left foot on like a
wand.
Like a wand, yeah. Somebody said recently, a few months ago, they have a left foot on them like a Hoover. I was like, a Hoover? Never heard that one. Always heard wand, but never Hoover.
Like a Hoover?
Like a Hoover, yeah.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
No, apparently it's a good thing. It was, I think it was the Newry City manager said that one. It's like, geez, maybe it really fell off my face. Like Hoover. It must be, well, they're strange ones, the Newry ones.
Best right foot, I'm gonna say, I'm trying to think of a defender that can really whack a ball. Rachel McLaren for Crusaders, or Tony Lee. I don't know. I'll say.
Are you going for a joint one? Joint one?
No,
Tony Lee.
no joint. I'm gonna say Tony Lee Finnegan.
Oh, okay, fair enough. What about your best manager? I know that's a tough one, so you can pick a couple if you want, because I know you probably don't want to insult too many, and you probably don't want to insult your current manager that you lose your captaincy and
get released.
Or you're placed in the same, yeah.
Suppose I've sort of had the same managers obviously for the last couple of years and stuff. Northern Ireland, Noel Mitchell, I think everybody would say that he really stuck out. Like he was sort of the first manager that had like a tactical approach to watching. Like that's really how I learned how to like positionally be a centre mid, like going back and forth and where to be when the ball's in certain areas. So like develop me tactically wise, probably no, definitely. But Phil, like he's just like a wee dad. Like Phil at the minute, I like obviously I could probably just go and name every single manager I've had, but Noel has probably had the most influence on how I play football.
Sorry, I just muted myself there. What an absolute disaster. What about player that loves a hard challenge and the quickest player?
Player that loves a hard challenge. I would be up there. I think I would probably put myself up there. Ashley Hutton loves a good flat throwing herself in front of the ball. But I don't know if I would say Ashley Hutton. And then what's the next one?
The quickest player. Who's the Speedy Gonzalez? Who can you not keep up with?
There's definitely a few, like Keelan McGuinness is absolutely rapid. Rebecca McKenna, Kerry Halliday, and I'm going to probably say Keelan McGuinness.
And what about then best all-round player?
I was actually thinking about this when I'd seen their things. So it would definitely be either Rebecca McKenna and Abby McGee for the reason, whereas I think they've probably played every position on the pitch when I've played with them, and they could do anything. Like they're good at dribbling, they can score, they can defend. Like both of them are quite similar in how they play. So I would say either Rebecca McKenna or Abby McGee.
Okay, and then the last two, then player that got better with age, and then the player who always gave 100%.
Player that got better with age, but she's not even old, she's literally the same age as me, is Kerry Beattie. When I had first played with her, she was centre mid, and now, like last season, she was one of the best strikers in the league and got a move to Glasgow, but obviously came back. But she definitely had just like, obviously growing up, it helped her, like between the ages of 17 and 19, she'd really just like developed into like, she's always been like really skillful and stuff, but her movement to like centre mid to striker was just like it was just two different players. And then what was the last one?
And the very last one then, player who always gave 100%.
Louise McFrederick.
Louise McFrederick. Happy days. So that's them done. So to finish off, we're going to spin the wheel of Berba. It's not named after Dimitar Berbatov. It's actually an ex-teammate of ours who was nicknamed Berbatov because he was very skillful but never tracked back. He absolutely hated the nickname. So we're going to spin the wheel of Berba. It's going to land on some hot topic and you're going to give your opinion on it. So just spinning this big massive wheel here. There's absolutely nothing here. And it stopped on, so your topic, Cliftonville star Marissa Callaghan recently said that women's premiership games should be played at the weekend rather than midweek. What is Mia's thoughts on that?
I would like it. We play uni games in the middle of the day, and so I think like a Saturday 2 p.m. kickoff. It's just like such like an ideal time to play football. I just think it would be so good. Like everything around it, like your preparation before, like when you get home after, like I just think it would be so much better. Like as footballers, because it's not the most ideal playing a match at 7:45 on a Wednesday night. Like you could be going to Derry on a Wednesday night and you're not getting home till all hours. And like most people work and stuff, whereas like Saturday, like you're off for the weekend, and you would probably get more of a crowd. Obviously it would be hard, like even though we're summer league, at the start of our league the men's league's just finishing, and at the end of our league the men's league's just starting. So like the likes of Cliftonville and Crusaders and would like have like a clash with the pitches, which it would maybe like obviously if Cliftonville were playing Linfield at Windsor and we were playing Cliftonville at Solitude, everybody would go watch Cliftonville men against Linfield men at Windsor, then come watch us. But if there was nothing else on, it was just like it was the middle of June and we were playing Cliftonville at Solitude, I'd say there would be a good crowd at it. So you would probably get more people at the games. which would probably help. But yeah, I think I would like to move to Saturday than a Wednesday night.
And say you had a job this is completely, well, it's kind of on topic, but if you were given license to make any change to the women's game in Niffle, so say you were assigned with some post with Niffle, is there anything you would like to kind of implement? You kind of touched on, thought it was a good point earlier about maybe mixing some of the teams at underage groups and then maybe splitting off. Is there anything though that you would like to see, maybe one change in sort of the senior level in Niffle?
Oh gosh, probably a lot. I could probably give you a list. Probably would be like, I don't know. Maybe the change to like a Saturday change to the games, or like giving like a structure to the teams, being like, we're not telling you when you should train, but like if they turn around and be like, we're going to give you funding and you're going to have like not like a pro team, but like give you the funding to have a real like devotion to the football, and being like, you're going to play on a Saturday, so we're going to help you train Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and like prep you for the game, and just make they are trying, like Niffle are trying to make the game more high profile, but I think it's just like, because there's such a gap between the top and the bottom. Obviously, like we have money to train and go to the gym or whatever, but maybe the likes of Derry don't. So it's just sort of to try and like even the playing field out and give every club to say, we're gonna make sure you all do this, this, and this to make the league better.
And do you think the expansion of the league will help? You've got Ballymena and Larne moving in, or?
Yeah, I think obviously it just gets a bit tedious. Like I feel like we play the same team every week. So obviously having a bigger league is gonna give more opportunities for players. Like players might stay at the big teams because they don't want to drop down a league, whereas like if people aren't getting on in like the top 4, top 5 teams, they might consider moving to like Larne or Ballymena because they're in the top league, so they're still going to get like the top level of football, and they're going to get minutes. So it obviously will have its pros, definitely, like obviously playing more teams and giving everybody a fair chance in playing football than just like having Glentoran playing Derry, and like Derry might not want to fancy it, but then if they're playing Larne have just came up from the championship, and Derry be like, well, we're going to go and give us our best shot here to go and get points on the board.
Yeah, well, it's certainly onwards and upwards for the women's game. There's no two ways about it, which is fantastic to see. I'm trying to train up my wee one Lily, trying to get her to work on her left foot, and to be fair, her left foot's way better than mine already, and she's only 2.5.
Left foot on like a Hoover.
Yeah, like a Hoover. But I'll have to make sure she doesn't play a right back, since you're totally against right backs.
Or left back. No full backs.
But to be fair, she probably could take a penalty kick better than you. But anyway, Mia, thanks a million for taking the time out. That's nearly an hour, and I'm just conscious there's 2 minutes into the Man United game. So hopefully you're 1-0 up. So thanks a million. Pleasure speaking to you. And
you too.
Not a bother. And here, all the best for next season and whatever's in front of you in your exciting career.
No problem. Thank you very much.
All right. All the best. Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Keepie Uppies with Richie and Tots.